Hey everyone, to crack on with some of my truck with the Nitro engine and the fuel system and everything, I wanted to really make a push this weekend on the electronics, and I thought I'd do all the electronics and then kind of show you guys kind of the electronics after it's done, and then just go over it. But while I'm just doing the last of the cells in series, thought I'd stop just to, for you to have a quick look. So, to recap so far, what I've done is, let's have a look. I've created a part of a cabin to go on the top, and on the top of the cabin what I've done is I've put these two boxes which came off two XTM Nitro buggies, and I've put them on the top of the cabin, and inside each of the boxes I've put a cell, an 18650 cell, and that cell is hooked up. This cell, for example, is hooked up to another cell in here. So if I just take this pin out, you can see the second cell in there. So this is the first of the cells, which is leading to the second of the cells, and I'm just putting the third of the cells in underneath the cabin. And basically each of these cells here has its own positive and negative wire, which leads to this box here, which is the charge box I'm making. And each one of these USBs at the bottom, this port this port slightly above the large USB port, the small USB, that's the in charge to charge those cells on the top of the cabin here. And there's three cells, two further top and then one for inside, which is this cell, which I'm going to hide up underneath. And I'll show you that in a second. I've stopped before I glue this in, do the soldering and wiring in. I just stopped to show you. And basically there's a switch in this one here on the left, and the reason there's a switch there, and that was out of a halogen heater, and there's the same again in there, another halogen heater switch. And the idea with those two switches is these cells, these two lithium cells here, and the third one underneath that's going on being glued underneath there, well, these cells are all run in series to add up to about 10 volts, 9-10 volts, and they're really handy because they're very lightweight, they have a high capacity, and that electric output they'll be sending out in their series will be running the servos of the truck itself, which is really useful. But to charge them, instead of messing around with any chargers to charge them in a series or individually or whatever, I wanted to stay with the USBs because I can just hook 3 USBs in, one there, one there and one there, and charge the whole thing. But because it's in series, when you charge it, when you try to charge it, if you've not got a switch between each of the cells, then what you'll find is you'll make a fourth electric circuit on the circuit. So you'll have 3 circuits independently, all charging their own cell, 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cell, 3 charge ports. But because they'd still be hooked up in their series pattern, the first cell and the third cell would make a 4th circuit within the circuit, and then you get feedback to your PCB boards here, and you'll start seeing smoke and capacitor smoke. I tested that one on the RC helicopter mod I was working on, so that was a really handy mod to teach me that it's great to use these cells in series, and it's great to charge them individually, but do make sure you've got switches between the cells, so when you're charging them you turn the switches off, and when you've stopped charging them and you want to run them in series, you turn both of the switches on. I could turn those on now, and that'll that'll be running, there's 2 cells set up, so that's running 7 volts to the output wires, back to 3.5 volts, back to no volts. And basically they each have their own set of wires, positive and negative, going off to their cells. So that'll be one of the wires coming off the positive and one of the wires coming off the negative here, and the other positive wire is leading to the next cell for the series wire, and on the negative it's the same again, another wire is leading off the negative to the other side of the cells in series. And when they're all in series, I can then feed off the 10 volts down into the actual chassis of the truck and into where they need to go. I've just left a crocodile clip. There's the positive wire, and then that's coming off one of them battery cells, and then there'll be a negative wire running down as well, and that'll be going back in there. So that way I can charge them all. I can charge the 3 lithium ions with the USBs. I have 2 Molex connectors here from PCs, and they're a bit harder to get, the female Molex connectors, because the PC, the PSU, the power supply unit, they all have male Molexes on, where you have to get adapters for things like VGA graphics cards if you know, you want the female Molexes. But I got these female Molexes dirt cheap. I got 2 female Molexes leading into a 6-pin VGA, and each one of those was 25p, so that was dirt cheap. And I've put two Molexes in there, and they'll be charging 2 6-volt batteries at the back of the truck here, one here and one on the other side. It'll be the same again, they'll have a switch between them to make sure they don't bridge the circuit back, and I'll charge them independently. And that way I can do all the charging, plug in all the wires here for the entire of the truck. And finally there's one more switch here which I've put in, and that switch is for the camera. So instead of having to unplug the barrel pin from the camera every time, I can just use that switch to turn it on and off, which makes life a lot easier. So yeah, I stopped and documented. They're the key electronics, because once you've hooked these cells up in series, put switches in between each cell to make sure you're not getting a 4th circuit by accident when charging them. Put a switch in there for your camera, and set up 2 sockets so you can recharge your SLA batteries at the back. If you remember the 2 SLA 6 volts under here, they were being hooked up in series to get 12 volts, which I was then going to send into the cabin to get lights for the cabin, and also put for the lights to put on the front as well. I've done a bit of painting to the front, kind of need to touch it up, but kind of looks like it's supposed to kind of look now in my head, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I still need to put some sides on this thing, and next I'm lining up the tubing to hook up to the fuel tanks, to then hook up to the carburetor underneath, and I can then test this air intake and the silencer stroke muffler exhaust system on the other side. So yeah, that's my electronics really set for this vehicle. If I just put this down, it's nice. You can see how underneath got a lot of crazy wiring going on, but off that switch, so off this switch is leading into this last of the cells, and I'll now hook up on this cell these 2 wires, which are for the charge, which is the red and yellow. I use the yellow for a live and a red for a negative. I always just use the darker colour as the negative. and they'll both get hooked up to here now, and then the last of the wires, the negative wire, will run off down into the truck there, which will then feed the servos. So yeah, I've tried to keep these as tidy as I can to the back wall, and I could have even covered it with a fake wall there. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I could still paint over these so they'd kind of disappear that way, or I could paint the wires a kind of red and yellow to say like they're live, so don't touch them when you're walking around the cab type thing inside. Or what I was thinking of maybe is getting a little wood burner stove, you know, model version, and when I put it in here, that should kind of hide the wires behind the stove. I'll run a flute pipe for that little stove up along the cabin, and then up out of the cabin at the front of the truck, so up out of that, which will be like a little smoke unit, and that way it'll be like someone's living in it. And what I thought was pretty cool is no cabin is fitting without a dirty calendar on the wall. I mean, what would that be in real life? A3, A2 or something? It'd be massive, that thing. And what was I thinking? I was thinking non-stick floor for when you're out on the snow and your boots are kind of wet. That I thought would look quite nice under the cabin lights. And that is Henry paper, as in stuff you use to sand stuff down with. Put a little bit here as well. And after that second part's gone on, to be pretty careful with this wiring at the moment. Oops, wrong way, buddy. Something like that. So when that's on there, the idea is when you're looking down, it looks like it's yellow. But then I'll paint the front of the box orange and the sides of the box orange, so when you're looking onwards it looks like the rest of the cabin. The yellow's quite bright now, golden yellow, which I thought was pretty cool. And a bit of luck, that still opens because I've not opened it in a bit. If you remember, this one was to get the starter in. I'll gently take that off. Maybe I've painted it in place there. This truck, for the yellow alone, took 2.5 tubs of yellow. I must have give it, what, 3 or 4 coats. The idea is get it really nice shiny golden yellow now, and after it's been out in the mud for a bit it'll get its own, you know, pattern of tarnishing, which is my aim there. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying my build so far, and now that the electronics are pretty much done, I'll just finish them off, put them back on, and then I'll get working on the fueling system, as I have to make a bit of a series system, as my mate Ben said. Ben, just if you are watching this one, my idea, mate, was I can't remember. I think they might have called it tethering or something, tethering fuel tanks. But my idea, mate, is nitro exhaust here with its out pipe there, comes along here and goes into, say, tank number 1, and it goes in, oh no, let's say this is tank number 2. So out pipe comes along there, goes into tank number 2 here at the top, right? That would then push pressure through here, sending fuel out of here, right? Fuel comes out of here, goes into the top of tank number 1, which then the pressure gets sent through there, comes out of here, and this then goes off to the carburetor. So that's in series, right? You know, like fuel tank in series, which I thought is, you know, might work. But what I didn't know is, would pressure be lost as it came up, you know, so the silencer and muffler system has extended it and probably, I don't know, maybe created pressure or reduced pressure, I'm not sure. It is extended, but if you remember inside it's quite meshed up, there's not much space for airflow, you know, gas flow, So that'd be interesting. But let's say the pressure's still the same. Let's say the pressure manages to push it along this pipe, you know, through the pressure going through here, out of there, through here, then down to the carburetor. It makes me wonder if there'll be enough, you know, PSI to do it coming out of the out of the exhaust unit. So that'd be really interesting to see, and I'm dying to get that silencer running just to see how quiet it's made the system, and if it actually works, if I can get the cycle of nitro being sent through the system, as in the engine burning it off, sending the fumes out, which is then sending the back pressure back down the pipe again to send more nitro into the engine, that constant loop of keeping it running. If I can do that, then this is pretty much done. The rest will just be pretty much cosmetic. So yeah, I hope you're enjoying my series, and please leave comments, and it's finally getting there, which is a win. So thanks guys, and I'll see you around. See yous.